When I was a boy, I remember going to church on Sundays with my family. I remember looking up in wonder at the stained glass windows and the large wooden cross. I remember sitting next to my parents during the service, fighting with my brother while trying to stay quiet. I remember looking around at all the stoic faces, wondering why everyone looked so sad and expressionless. I would look down at the church bulletin at the list of things we would be doing during our 1 hour together. I remember I would go through that bulletin like a checklist, checking things off as we did them, praying for the end to come so we could just get on with our day. I learned that my sin was the primary issue. That is, all the bad things that I do. I was taught that my sin causes a separation between me and God, that He cannot look upon me because I'm just too sinful, too dirty. I remember feeling a sense of abandonment because of this, like an orphan. As my pastor's voice echoed off the walls of that large church, I remember feeling as if God was so far away, so far removed from my life. I was taught that God is holy, and that holiness meant He can't get close to me because, well, I'm a sinner. I was told it's kind of like oil and water. The two just don't mix. I remember we talked a lot about the death of Jesus, that Jesus came, He died on the cross, and somehow Him dying on the cross made God okay with me. The gospel I heard was that I'm a sinner, Jesus died for my sins, and if I believe that He died for my sins, He'll forgive me of those sins and I'll go to heaven someday. I was taught that receiving forgiveness is salvation, that to be saved is to pray the sinner's prayer and receive forgiveness. And to make that point, people would use various examples and illustrations, such as the bridge illustration. They showed me that I'm on one side and God is on the other side, and when Jesus died, it made a bridge, so that I can get to God. It's kind of like if I think of myself as a kind of tree, and I have all this bad fruit growing on my tree. Like a moth to a flame, I was drawn to things which were killing me. And I was taught that if I believe Jesus died for all this bad fruit, it's forgiven, erased, gone. And because my dirty sins are now gone, I can now walk over the bridge into God's holy presence. You know, someday. In this gospel, our behavior plays a leading role. It teaches that to be forgiven of bad behavior is to be saved. And if I'm forgiven, I should now be really thankful, and that thankfulness should make me not want to sin as much. There was just one problem. I must not have been very thankful because it wasn't working on me. I couldn't stop sinning. I couldn't help it. So did that mean I was separated from God again? And people would tell me, you need to confess your sins. You need to get them off of you. And they would take a verse like 1 John 1:9 and they would quote it to me, and I would take it right out of context and I would use that verse like a bar of soap. I would get dirty by sinning, and then I'd clean up by confessing. And then I'd get dirty again, and then I'd confess again. But what happens if I forget to confess some sins? I was caught up in that sin-conscious cycle of perpetual striving, constantly focused on myself, on my behavior. See, the gospel of salvation that I heard growing up paints Christianity as just another religion. It paints Christianity as just another system of sin management, behavior modification. Whether I'm Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, or Muslim, religion is all the same. It's me trying to get right with God. It's me trying to fix up my tree. It's me focused on my behavior rather than the very source of life itself. But the reality is that true biblical Christianity is entirely different. With Christianity, I never try to fix up my old behaviors. I never try to fix up my old tree, ever. The reason why is because it's a bad tree. It has a bad root system. The root produces the fruit. See, this is where religion gets it wrong. All religions. Whereas religion treats the symptoms of the disease, true Christianity kills the entire tree, buries it, and plants a new one. Our old life is like a seed, And the interesting thing about seeds is that they only sprout new life after they die. That is why Jesus said we must lose our life in order to find it. He didn't come to fix us up. He came to tear us down and start over. We are not fixer-uppers. We are tear-downs. The Apostle Paul declared, "I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me." Jesus chops down our tree and plants a completely new one. Religion tells me my branches need forgiveness, but the reality is that God chops down the whole tree and makes it new. Salvation isn't about God forgiving our branches. It's about God replanting our roots. What I've learned since those early days is that the biggest misunderstanding in modern-day Christianity is that it is a religion, a checklist, a system for receiving forgiveness. Religion pacifies people by making the gospel all about forgiveness, and then it deceives us into thinking we need to keep going back for more forgiveness. But Jesus already provided once-for-all forgiveness for all time. Our forgiveness is no longer in question. It is finished. It's time to move on. The only question remaining is if we are willing to be made into something new, if we are willing to surrender ourselves so God can fill us with Himself. Forgiveness is a beautiful thing, but it is not the point of the gospel. Forgiveness is not the destination, but merely the open doorway into something new. In light of God's eternal, new covenant of once-for-all forgiveness, why is it that so much of modern-day Christianity is so preoccupied with trying to earn forgiveness, that which they've already been given? In our next video, we will take a look at just that.